Let's start with session. Basically, the recipe document has been sent to you, right? So the first page basically has an agenda. The agenda is broken down into steps, so you know in whichever stage we are in, and even if you like trying to come in between or so, you will know where exactly we are. So that is the order in which I will be doing the things today. Now there will be four dishes that we will be baking, right? And you know what the four are. Okay, and those four are basically the best sellers from our patisserie, and I'm just going to actually make them and show to you. The bread dough, we are going to use two different types of the dough. So one of the dough we'll be using for the Korean bun and the stuffed garlic bread, both of them. And for the pizza, we'll be making another dough. So the first one, which is going to be used for the bun, I am going to use a stand mixer. Now, you may be having a stand mixer and you will be attaching to the dough hook. And that is just to take away the stress from our hands. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, obviously, we could do it with a hand itself. Now, for the pizza dough, I'm going to use my hands to knead and show. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer at all, then you will follow the method which I'll be showing you on the pizza dough. And you will start kneading the buns dough also the similar way. Now, if you have a stand mixer, then the pizza dough also is good enough to go on the stand mixer. It's just that I wanted to show both. So I'm keeping the bun dough for the stand mixer and the pizza dough for the hand kneading, right? So you can just juggle between the recipe pages in the document, and the measurements are given there. So to begin with, the yeast, I'm going to activate that. There is water right in the recipe. I'm going to add the water in a bowl, and you need the water to be lukewarm. Okay, so I'm just going to get this microwaved for about 40 seconds, and then I'll check. You don't want the water to be too hot also. Now, when you are doing this lukewarm water thing from your home, what I usually do, I dip my index finger into the lukewarm water, and I just do a count of 1 to 5. And then the count of 5 will be the maximum bearable temperature of the water for me. And that is when you're good to go. Now, if it is like too hot, obviously you can't be like dipping in for like more than the count of 2, which means you'll have to cool down the water a bit. But if it is like really easily bearable for you on the count of 5, then you allow it to heat up a little bit more. So keeping it in lukewarm will allow the yeast to activate faster. It also depends on the room temperature you guys are working. And now if it is like too cold, then obviously the water temperature will have an effect on how the yeast is going to react. Okay, so I'm just going to put my finger, and on the count of 5, that looks good. Okay, so now you need to add sugar into the water. I'm just going to mix the sugar up. And then the yeast I'm using will be the instant dry yeast. Now, the instant dry yeast, in most of the recipes, when there is call for an instant dry yeast, it goes directly into the flour. Now, when you are going to buy an instant dry yeast, say suppose you just have like a pack of 500 grams, right? And you are not someone who's making a lot of breads all the time, then that pack remains there in your shelf or something. And even if there is the expiry date and stuff like that, you've checked on that, maybe the yeast is just died. And if you're going to use that directly onto the flour, which is also allowed. Now, when you know that the instant dry yeast, the pack that you have, is quite good and it is reactive, it can go into the dough directly with all the other ingredients, and then you can start kneading. The dough will still rise. Now, adding into the lukewarm water with the sugar, this is especially for the instant dry yeast, which logically doesn't need the lukewarm water step at all. Now, this can be done when you're not sure if your yeast is like fine or if it is like dead because it's been like storing for quite some time. Now, even if you're buying it from a store, you can do this step. And if you're going to use the same yeast for quite some time, like say maybe for a month, and then you're going to use it regularly for a week or so, you can skip this putting in the water and sugar, the lukewarm step, and add the yeast together with a flour, the water, the milk, everything can go in. Obviously, the fat will be the last thing that you can add. Now, this just added for you to show how the yeast is going to react with sugar and lukewarm water. It's just going to foam up, and that is when the yeast will wake up. It will just feed up on the sugar in the lukewarm water, and it is going to release the carbon dioxide. So the fumes, the foams that are going to, not the fumes, the foamy texture that this yeast is going to develop now is because it is releasing carbon dioxide, and that is the one that will be there in the dough also, giving you all the bubbles inside, and that is basically the texture of the bread or the bun itself. So I'm just going to leave that aside for now. Are you able to see in the side cam now? Separation issue. So we just wait for some time. No, that could take about like say 5 minutes or so. The question, the cursor, move the cursor. Is there Celsius for this one? No, it's just like, see, the exact temperature of this water actually doesn't make much sense because it also depends on the room temperature. Now, if it is like really very hot in the summer, even your room temperature water will still do the same logic. Now, if this yeast is going to be put on the flour and you're going to use room temperature water and start making your dough, the yeast will still react. It will still be awake. I mean, it will start waking up with the sugar that you're going to put in the dough itself. And obviously in winter, the water in the room temperature itself will be like really very cold, and that is when you have to heat it up. So it's like a warm water should be fine. Then water will just be as per the measurement. But when you're kneading the dough, when you feel like, depends on how quickly you're just going to put them together. If you feel like you want to just sprinkle a little bit of more water, unlike the cakes where you just can't change the measurements of the milk or water in the recipe for any sponge that you're doing. Now in the bread, there are things that you can slightly change to just get the texture of the bread that is easy for you to just knead. Now, if it is obviously too sticky, then sprinkling a little bit of flour as you're kneading will also make no harm to the process of dough making. So it's just starting to form the foam on the top. Are you able to see? So I'm just taking it a bit closer. Okay, you can see the bubbles that are coming up, right? So I'm just going to use this. I'll set this aside. Now I have the stand mixer into which I'm going to attach the dough hoop. So into this bowl, I'm going to add the flour. Then I'm adding the salt as well. Just going to give it a mix so the salt mixes evenly. So put the bowl into the stand mixer, and I'm just going to drop in all of this yeast, which is having the sugar and the water as well. Just drop it all in. Now, if you're going to do that by hand, then this bowl will be your regular bowl. It can be steel bowl, plastic bowl, or glass bowl, doesn't matter. I'm just going to bring that together first. And while that is kneading, I'm just going to add in the milk as well. All of the milk goes. Just going to gather all the dry flour together. Okay, Nidhi or Pallavi wants to know whether you can use hook attachment of the hand mixer. Now, is my voice still audible when the beater is still going on? And if then I will just keep talking when the stand mixer is going on. Is that fine? My voice is still audible, right? Yes. Okay. So, using a dough hook and the hand will still give you pressure with a hand because you're just going to do that, right? Instead, if you don't have a stand mixer, using the hand will be much more easier, I feel, instead of using the dough hook, because that will again involve some arm pressure. And that is again anyway going to take the same time as what you will do with a stand mixer. That is also going to take almost about like 7 minutes. We are going to wait and check for the window pane test. Now, once this comes together, I'm just going to start adding the oil as well. Now, this step could take definitely more than 5 minutes. And the dough has to come together. I feel like the stand mixer's dough hook is just going to keep the dough not coming together. Bring them together with like a simple knead. So it just holds together, not just be separated when the dough hook is running. So the initial texture when you are actually making it is going to look something like this, okay, which is the surface is not going to be like pretty smooth enough. But then once after 5 to 10 minutes of the kneading, the dough itself is just going to become pretty shiny. So until then, we're just going to do, and the shiny stage is when you will have the gluten also form. So I'm going to use the same dough. I haven't done any pre-prep of a dough that has been already proven, and to just show at what stage this is, because after the kneading, the first step, which is kneading and getting the gluten formation, we'll be allowing it to double up in volume. That will be the first proving. So the dough is just going to rise up, right? So to just speed up on the rise, usually the system that anyone would follow to make it easier for you also to have a flow of that entire thing is to actually have another set of dough that has already been proven. So once the step is done, we could just take that out and show. But I thought we'll just wait and see the same dough is what we're just going to have the first proving done and then the second proving, and that is what is going to get baked and cooked. We also, and that is why the agenda is split up in a way that when this is proving, we will be doing the other stuffs. So the continuation of what happens to this dough, you will see only after it is got proven or risen up after the first proving, right? So it is for you to follow upon the agenda to know where exactly we are, right? So maybe it just took about like say 2 to 3 minutes. So the first stage you saw, right? Now the rough surface is just all reducing a little bit, and then the dough is trying to get a bit smoother and softer now. But we still need to be kneading it for some time. But let me just show how the window pane test is done. Just turn up to the side cam. So you take like a small portion of the dough and then use the fingers like how I'm doing, and then start stretching it. And when you have the center of the dough become thin and not break, and that will be the window pane. When the window pane is formed, then the kneading is done. Now, when you see the cracks and the the holes that are forming, which means the window pane is not properly done yet, and you know that some more kneading is necessary. Even this step is quite applicable when you're doing it with your hand kneading or then also the stand mixer. Now the window pane test, now it is like after 3 minutes, you still have a little bit of the cracks or the holes showing up in the window pane. Now, which means we'll have to continue kneading this. So I am letting it beat on high speed, speed 10. Now, by kneading it like really well, we are developing the gluten in the dough. So gluten is nothing but you can imagine like we are trying to form like an elastic, say maybe you can imagine like stretches of a lot of rubber bands together. Now, when you keep stretching the rubber band, it just not break, right? As you stretch, and that is what we are trying to check through the window pane. Now, if the elasticity is not formed really well, and that is when you will have the holes being formed, which means the strings of the elastic, which is the gluten, is just breaking. So you don't want the breaks to happen. When you know that the breaks are happening in the window pane, the gluten is not formed fully yet. So we are kneading it furthermore to allow the gluten to develop. Now, when the gluten develops, that is when the dough rises. Now, because we are adding yeast in that, the yeast is going to release carbon dioxide. And when there is this elasticity from the gluten, now when the carbon dioxide releases inside the dough, the gluten expands, and when the elasticity retains, the carbon dioxide gets locked as smaller air bubbles inside the dough, and that is what is the texture that you see as you cut through the bun. You have the smaller air pockets that are locked. Now, when the gluten formation is also keeps developing when the proving is happening, and when you allow it to prove for longer, how much of elasticity is there? There is a chance that the elasticity will also break open if the stretch is too much. So when you're allowing the carbon dioxide, the proving time is more, then there is more carbon dioxide that forms, and then the gluten strings just breaks open. And that is when you will have an overly proofed dough, and that also we're not going to allow from happening. So gluten formation is the major, key aspect to have like a proper bread or bun. So now, irrespective of whatever recipe you use, you pick it up from the internet to like maybe make a loaf bread or like maybe make a cinnamon dough or something. I mean, cinnamon roll. The concept of making the dough for the bread or the bun will just remain the same. And some of the recipes add extra gluten and bread improver. what is the use of adding extra gluten in bread improver? See, the flour that we get here is like the regular maida or the all-purpose flour, right? That is available for us in India. But there are some super specialty stores, sometimes online and sometimes off the market also you could get, especially made for bread. Now, the gluten that is available in the flour from the market is not enough for the bread to be like super soft, for the elasticity to be formed like really well and have a super soft bread. And that is when you're making it at home, it doesn't really, is not in comparison with what you get from a store-bought bread, right? Now, the addition of extra gluten will just make this flour, the all-purpose flour, a little more closer to having a bread flour. Now, there are bread flours. You can just find them on Amazon as well. And I just found out like an Instagram page. I think they are based in Delhi, not in the South. They are having a certain specific types of flours that are specific to, like say maybe flatbreads or like maybe, the loaf breads and then the buns where the gluten is already added in excess. And in those cases, you don't have to add extra gluten. Now, when you're using an all-purpose flour and you're looking at an even more softer bun than what you get with the result of what you are doing at home, then adding like say maybe for this recipe, you could just maybe add like 2 grams of gluten. Obviously, bread improver is also to have like an extra soft bread that you will get as a result. Now, for the same recipe, you can add 2 grams of gluten and 2 grams of improver. If you feel like you want to have your bread a little bit more softer than what you get, but suggest to just try this first and then check for the quality. And if you have the access of extra gluten and extra improver from the baking supply store, then you could just add 2 grams into the same recipe, 2 grams of each, and then test it out to see if you really want that extra softness in the buns, then there is no harm in adding that extra gluten and the bread improver. So now at this stage, now that it went on like say maybe for another 4 minutes, I'm just going to pick up some dough. Now my stretch is like quite elastic, and if it doesn't break, now that I have the hole coming in, also I have to be a little more gentle as well. Like really, if I'm just going to tear it, obviously, like I said, any extra pressure on the elastic or the gluten will definitely tear it. Okay, now that we have the holes formed, I'm going to continue kneading this for some more time to just check for the softness, like how it was initially. And now you can see it is just becoming shiny. Now let us knead this for another 2-3 more minutes. So now even for a stand mixer, obviously you can see the pressure on the machine, obviously for the speed. Now imagine if you have to actually do that with a hand beater and the dough hoop, there's still pressure on your hands. And to have the dough hoop control how it is going to knead, I prefer having it in your hand to knead, which I will show on the pizza dough. That is much more better than using a hand beater with a dough hoop. Just going to put these two together. So it just kneads properly. So when you know that it is just separated out from this dough hook, just hold them together around the hook and then let it beat for some time. Obviously, the machine is heating up at this point. So you don't have to worry. Beating like say maybe max of 10 minutes together on high speed should be fine. So let me do the window pane test. So now this one is not having holes. I'm like quite stretching it and you can see that it is almost translucent, right? And then you don't have the hole that's just kept forming in the previous attempts. So now at this stage, the kneading is enough. So sometimes, you know, with the temperature and the room that you kind of work, you know how long it is actually going to take. So all that while you can just allow it to keep beating and then go on and check for the window pane test and then you can decide whether you are just done or not. Okay, so now that will be the final dough. So you can see it's just quite smooth. Everything has come together. It's not splitting apart. Now I'm just going to allow this to go on for the first proving. Put the dough together. I have another bowl and you just need to oil that bowl. It doesn't have to be glass bowl. It can be like even a stainless steel bowl or a plastic bowl as well. So I'm just going to, you can just pour oil and then use your fingers to just coat around. So because when it just rises and you want to lift it off the bowl, you want it to come out without having some part of it sticking to the bowl. And that's why you oil the bowl. So I'm just going to coat the top as well and then turn it back. Now on top of this, you can use a damp cloth. Damp cloth is nothing but having your cloth, wet it completely and then squeeze out all the water. And that is also good. You can also cling wrap so you can see the rice from the outside. So I'm just going to leave this out now because say now there is AC now. If your kitchen is quite warm or hot because you're cooking there and then there is your oven going on in there. And if that room itself is like a hot kitchen, it doesn't have to be like really very hot, but a place where there is no AC, then this can just stay there somewhere in a warm place. Basically, maybe just keep it next to your stove, the burner or anywhere like that. Or like if your oven itself is like really very hot, you can just place it somewhere near that. Now, because we have air condition here, we're just going to keep it in a warm room where there is no AC, and that is preferred because if there is AC, the time that it is going to take to double up is going to get more. So you're just wanting to wait for it to double. So this is the same bowl I'll be taking out once it is doubled. That may come anywhere in between the agenda before the step of taking the dough back, because once it is doubled, we don't want to wait for long, because if it is overproofed, then obviously the gluten is all going to break, and we'll also have like over fermented dough, which will be too sour, and that flavor will not be like really very nice for the bun, but which will be the final product. So I'm just going to send it out. So this is the, you can show on the sides. So you can check for the size, how it is right now. Okay, and once it is doubled, we can just compare of how much it is just blown. Okay, so now this step is done. The next will be, you can go check on your agenda with a PDF that you have. I'll just clear up the table and we will start making for the garlic bread. It's like a stuffed garlic bread. This is not compulsory to add any vegetables inside, but then it is just an option for you to add vegetables. I just kept it all veg, but you could do any chicken or any filling for that matter, according to your taste and preference. Now we'll be using capsicum, the bell peppers and the corn. So it's just a simple sauteing process. We'll be using that as well cheese. Now you can completely cut down on this filling, the vegetables, or even you can avoid the chicken and just keep it cheese if you prefer doing that. So this is just an additional thing for you to know. You can also stuff things inside, and how you're going to do that if you're going to have like a lot of stuffing. So we just have like a temporary screen put up. We just clear the table, set it up for the second one in the agenda, and then I'll get back in that. How is the dough for the bun? We'll just check how much it is screwed to decide if you should go ahead with the pizza sauce. Done now. So I'll just show this now, then we just take a break to clear up. I think on the side, I just showed you, before it went inside. So you can see that is how it would double up. You can go into the video to compare and then check what was the size before it just gone in. So we will just go on with the garlic bread thing, because we also have the filling for the garlic bread, and we can shape up for the Korean buns as well. So that will be number 7 is what we will do. So the 4, 5 and 6, we will do it after we have done the garlic bread, right? So I'll just clear up the table and then we prepare for the next stage for making the garlic bread, and then also the dough for the Korean buns. The first proving is done. On the sides, I think I showed you earlier. Now also you can just take a look on the side. Okay, so you can see it's just doubled, right? And just going to open the cling wrap to also show the top or how shiny and smooth it looks. Okay, so the surface looks like that, well proven dough, and it also has raised up. So now I'm just going to knock down the dough. Knocking down is like releasing up all the carbon dioxide that has been locked in. Just give a gentle knead. You don't have to knead like so much. Roughly bring it together. Now you can see the texture, how nicely it looks. Stretchy. Okay, and now for the garlic bread that we do in our patisserie, we have done the pricing to make sure the cost is like not too less for what we give. So we have weights for all the, even the dough is weighed. So we go by the weight, and the recipe has it. It is 100 grams of the dough. I'm just using a scraper, or you also call it the bread cutter. It is 109. That is fine, I think. Okay. So the rest of it will go for, or we can have Ritu, only cheese alone. Get some more excess cheese. Double this cheese and get some. Leave this here in another bowl. Get. So I'll do another 100 grams, because that is like a lot for just the Korean one. This will be 125. I'll just 109. Okay, so 103. So these two, let me have it for the stuffed bread. 40, right? Korean bun weight is 40. So Korean bun, what we have, because of the consistency that we want to maintain, we make sure the dough is weighed 42. That's 41. Forty is like not too big, not too small, but then at least the pricing um, is like reasonable. The Korean bun that we sell, one bun is priced at 100. So to make your life easier, you can maybe stick to that pricing, or you can make it a little lesser if you want. So like maybe make it say 80 still works. Nothing less than 80, at least for whatever, if you're going to follow up the same recipe. If you're doing it for home, you can eyeball, but obviously, like, because we are bakers and eventually we end up wanting to do a business out of it, even if you're going to practice it for home, just stick to this method of trying to keep the precision. That will anyway help you when you're going to change this entire thing into a commercial thing. Let me weigh this entire thing. It is 53, but I'll just leave it. So these are the buns. Another tray like this. And then we start making the buns for the garlic. I mean the Korean cream cheese bun. I have this here with me. How many do we have? One of it is 50 grams. The others are measured for 40. Like I said, that is a measurement that we do. Now, if you're going to make for your family, you want to have like smaller buns you're making, like for a kid's party, you make the exact measurement once to actually know what you're doing on the patisserie. Now, if you're not anywhere in Chennai, if you're not able to order it and actually eat it from our patisserie, so make these to know how it actually tastes. If you could buy it from a patisserie. Having said that, so these are portions like, say, one bun is like quite good if you're like really hungry and craving, and that is like very addictive to finish off one bun. But now if that is going to be like in a serving of different other savories, and you feel like you want to cut down the size because like maybe you're going to have kids, or maybe you can just divide and share, that is also possible. Like cut them, having made the entire Korean cream cheese bun, then cut it into half and then maybe keep it. But seeing that as a whole is like very interesting. So that case, you want to reduce the size, make mini Korean cream cheese buns, then just reduce the size. And that is when you know you're going to make it consistently the same size, and just have the numbers or the size that you can just change. Okay. So I have the other tray, and now this again, like I said, bring everything to the bottom. Okay, and then put it in your hands, and then you want to seal that whatever you got it to the bottom. No, you don't want it to open up. So you want to seal it like this. And that way, you know, the bottom is not going to open up. Okay, so use your one hand upon the other palm and make sure the bottom is sealed like that. Let me do that again, like this. Okay, so the bottom is sealed like that. After which, you're going to hold your hand like so in your palm. Yes. Or on the counter, fold it like so, and then roll. The palm, it looks like this. With a good amount of pressure and speed as well. The bun looks like that. This is the top. Okay, and then the bottom. So now this goes onto the tray. That is the 15. So a rough pulling, stretching and pulling and bringing the join at the bottom like so, and sealing that part where you got all of them at the base. Okay, and so you're giving it space. I'm just holding it like that. Okay, holding my hand like that over this, giving room for that ball with pressure and speed. You can also do it on the mat with a good amount of pressure so the bottom seals well. Finish the base. This also goes to proving, and it gets baked like a bun itself. The slit happens after baking to fill it with a cream cheese filling. Let me read through questions if there are any. If we make this bread for a party, can we make it in the morning and heat it at low heat on the oven? You can do that, Tanya. See this Korean bun, which does not have any filling inside, can be made, baked, and cling wrapped properly and frozen. Say like you have to make like 100 buns, say. You can't be doing that all together and managing the proving time and stuffs like that, no? So that case, you make the buns a little at a time and then cling wrap and then freeze them. Okay, and you remove from the freezer, remove the cling wrap and allow it to thaw and come to room temperature, and they're good to go for the next stage, which is like adding the filling and then baking. So on a baked bread, adding the filling is a different step than what we did for the stuffed garlic bread. Now, stuffed garlic bread, the stuffing has gone in the dough itself, right? Now, there is cheese inside the dough. Now, you know that the cheese, once it is melted once, when it cools down itself, it just kind of gets a little tough. and a crust forms, and it is sometimes when you microwave like a pizza, a store-bought pizza, it is not as fresh, right? It is hot, but there is a crust formation on the top, right? So that factor you need to keep in mind. Just the bread can be baked and like frozen, like for even a month, it will work. When you have like bulk orders to do. Now we also have this chili cheese toast and this potato. It is like a flat bread, and then on the top we have the filling. Those are also like the same recipe. The shape alone is like little elongated. You bake like log, and then what we do, we cut it horizontally into two, and we keep the flat side up, and then we load it with cheese and chili. Now, when you're going to have that made in bulk, it'll still work like making the bread alone ahead of time and freezing it. But proper cling wrap and storage in the freezer should be like airtight. Like each one has to be cling wrapped separately. The Korean buns, you can like put like 9 of them or so, and then you can freeze together. Just like nicely stored in airtight container, like put it in a box and then completely seal it. But then the surface of the bread to be cling wrapped is important. How many garlic bread and buns can be made in this recipe? Now you just seen out of that dough, I made 2, which is 100 grams of the garlic bread, right? And then I have 1, 2, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 of the Korean buns, each of 40. So we can do the math. So 12 40s was how much? 480, right? So 480, and then there is 200, there's 680 grams of the dough we have. So if using that recipe, you have to make like using the same recipe, if you have to make like just the stuffed garlic bread, you will get approximately 7, because it is 680. Even if there's a little adjustment, then or the last one will be like 80 grams. Then for 680 divided by 40 grams, because that is the weight of each of the Korean bun dough. And that many Korean buns you will have, because we have just weighed the each of the dough, right? So we know exactly how much we are going to have. And you can just divide or multiply the dough recipe. But if you're going to do it with a KitchenAid, just make sure if your KitchenAid will handle so much dough. So this again will go to second proving. And when the second proving is done, I'm going to take and show and then do egg wash. Egg wash is like what we do here, half of egg and half of milk. Now, if you don't want egg, then obviously just milk wash will do. Now, with just the milk wash, the color is not going to be like really golden brown, but that is a compromise if egg is not going to be there. But I think that should be fine. Fully egg wash should be like really brown. Half egg and half milk wash is like golden brown. Now I'll send this out to proving. You know, that is a simple recipe. We have the measured cream cheese and the icing sugar. So that sweetness in the Korean cream cheese bun is the most interesting thing. And people are surprised as you eat with garlic, some spices, and then this sugar. So icing sugar onto the cream cheese. Just whip this. And then the icing sugar goes in. I'm just mixing it up so you don't want the icing sugar to just fly all over. If it's done, I'm just going to fill it up in piping bag. And that way it is easier to slit the bun and then fill it inside the Korean bun. We'll also have the next one. The butter garlic dip for Korean bun is also ready, and we'll just do it together. That is also with all the ingredients. So the measurement is like tested so many times, and that's the exact one we use for the patisserie. Every spice is measured. You follow the exact one and then make it to know how it goes out from a patisserie. And then you can alter based on your taste preference. So now this is done. So keep this aside, but for which the bun has to be ready. So we're waiting for it to prove. Now this is for the dip. Everything goes in a bowl and then it gets melted, microwaved. Okay, so that is butter. So this garlic actually does not get cooked before adding it into the dough, because it's been like a couple of times we have used the garlic, but here it goes like raw. That's the whole thing. The garlic gets cooked only during baking in this particular recipe. Oops. So all of them goes inside and then we just microwave the sugar I'm adding. Salt, oregano. Who's going to mix this and we have it microwaved. It's going to be in a liquid state and this is what we are going to use to dunk the filled bun. So we are going to slit the bun and fill it with a cream cheese filling that we have made, and it will be dunked in this. Now this step you can make ahead and keep even the cream cheese filling. You can save the time when we have like quite a bit of numbers to make. So those can be made ahead of time and then you can put it in the refrigerator. So microwave this like say 30 seconds and check if it is turned liquid and everything comes together, and then do like 10-20 seconds more to have them all combined together. So now, like I said, the cream cheese filling and the butter garlic dip, you can make it the previous day. And then they also store well because nothing is just going to get spoiled out of that. And they can be in the refrigerator. You can even freeze them, like so doing surface wrap and then freezing them also works. And the bun also is like freezer friendly, which is like you can make the buns and then you can freeze them quite a bit of numbers. So when you are ready to just give away, so you can finish doing your Korean buns like in an hour, because all of these three can be made ahead of time. So you let the bun thaw, and once it is thawed, you don't have to microwave, or you can also microwave to make it soft. And if it is in the room temperature and if it is just soft to the touch, slit them and do the filling with this and then dipping, which I haven't shown yet, but for you to have an idea of how it can be whipped up by doing the pre-prep. So you can have like a lot of numbers made ahead of time, and you can finish making quite a bit of numbers, and that is when you can take bulk orders of these. So the microwaved one looks like this. So it is going to be thicker in consistency, or we can show the top. So that's how it's going to look. It's not going to be like, a clear liquid, because we have quite a bit of garlic and the spices. When the butter is melted, it is going to be a thick dip. So the second proving stage is right here. Ideally, we would like it to rise up a little bit more, but also because of the temperature and because it is rainy, right? We'll do egg wash and bake it. Egg wash kudru. Mm. So a little more rising up would have been ideal. We'll just also, because it is live, we don't want to keep waiting. So you can check for the size of how it was before and then how it is now. And at this stage, it's good to have a egg wash. Now, because it would have rised up so much, the egg wash has to be like pretty gentle. Do a milk wash, which I've been repeating. It doesn't have to be like a egg only all the time, or half and half. So you can start preheating your oven at the stage. So now once it is baked, we still have to be slitting them and dipping it, filling and dipping this part, and then it needs to get baked again, right? So instead of waiting for it to prove a little bit more, let's just bake this. This has risen from the size that I have kept. You can just get back to that part of the video to compare, and that is when you have the recording available. And now I have this Korean cream cheese bun. And that is the dip. You just microwaved it again. So mix it up. So the butter, garlic, all the spices all comes together. But I just need to fill them up. I have the gloves also before dipping. So I'm just going to take the bun, okay? So that's baked and it is quite soft as well. And you could do 4. So I'm going all the way till here only. You don't want to cut through the entire bun. We do 6 slits at the patisserie. You can also do 4 if you're like doing at home. And you don't want to add like a lot of filling. Okay, 6 slits like that. Let me show the inside is like super soft and nice. Are you able to see Nothing much. Okay. I'm just going to do 2 or 3 for you to take a look. I'm going to send it out to the kitchen team because let's save some time. I'm not going to do for all of them. But when it is baked and it comes out, you'll have all of them done. So 6 slits. Is that angle quite okay? Six slits. Okay, now that's the cream cheese filling we made. Filling is 20. So the measurement is not written in your recipe, but you can just take down the notes. We have like restricted the filling to 20 grams for one bun. And that is also to make sure the pricing is not going like too much, because like obviously in the locality we are in, for one Korean bun is like more than 100 is too much, but this becomes expensive because we are using cream cheese in it. We'll not use. So we keep filling it and then we will weigh to ensure that there is 20 grams. But now you could do that to know how much filling we are using, or you can add more also. A little bit more won't hurt. So now I'm just going to open up. Okay, go all the way in. So open the slit and then pipe it in. Now we did, during the taste trials, we did pipe in more. They were yummy, but then the costing came out to be a little bit more. So to just cut down on the overall costing, we just came up to one point where 20 grams was just enough. So just these 3. The next part is going to be dunking. You could do it if you don't mind the raw garlic, but then there is butter, and then you also need to make sure you have to wash it thoroughly. Okay, so with a glove, I'm just going to dunk this inside this mixture. With as much garlic or if you feel like it is too much, just drop it back in. So this has the spice, the butter and the garlic, all of it is there, the cream and everything. Now, we also top it with cheese. You can avoid that if you want. But we do have a measurement of 5 grams. So this part, how much of the cheese as per our measurement? 2 grams. 2 grams of cheese just goes in. That again for consistency and pricing. Now you can alter how much cheese can go. Now I'm just making it a little bit more liberal. Okay, now I'll ask my kitchen team to repeat the same steps to the rest of the buns, and I'll also send it out to baking. Baking will be 180 to 3 minutes, just until the cheese smells, and that time is enough for the butter also to get soaked up, and we'll see how this looks. Now when it comes back, it is going to be magically all of it going to look like these three. We're just saving some time. Repeat of same steps will go on to this. It is quite warm, so there you have the completed Korean buns. The cheese is melted, and that is all you need. And the garlic's flavor from the liquid, the butter, the dip is all infused everywhere. And the center is sweet with the cream cheese. So we'll just do a bit of presentation, have all the completed ones together, and then we could just cut out to see how the inside looks. Now, what else is there? We have everything else finished. We just get back after a break. So I have the rest of it arranged, and we'll just wait for the quiche to come, and then we'll have that also, and all four will be ready on the table. I'll get back after this break.